Live, just so you know.
We're already live?
We're giving you a boost.
How are you there, right? We're supposed to.
Fuck.
Happy birthday, brother.
Good to see you. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're 29 now?
Yeah. 40, dude.
Big 4-0.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Old as dirt.
Now your wife can trade you for 220-year-olds.
Yeah, she could. She probably would, given the opportunity.
What are these? No, it's the last one. I don't know who they are. Oh, I got these. Jesus, man. Right, Worshipful? Would you like one? And there's a Coors Banquet.
Sure, why not?
Right, Worshipful.
Nice
Yeah, there's some things to run by you today before we leave.
You got it.
Oh, God. George was on the cover.
No, good chores or this?
You just got water there?
Water? We should have.
Oh, both of those. You just got water?
Water and alcohol.
That was a joke. You're offering me water.
I did not real beer.
Either one is fine.
Real beer.
This came out nice, man.
In that case, we'll have mystery beer. We don't know what this is.
Oh, who brought cupcakes?
Oh, that was my wife.
I freaking love cupcakes. I'm a sucker for baked goods.
You want to bring some cupcakes for your friends?
For your play date?
How long before this crashes? Kiss
Well, I'm
my
glad you didn't
ass.
say, no, they won't like
I've
no,
already
we don't
double-checked
think
it.
you.
It better not
I love
friggin'
freaking
crash.
baked goods.
Yeah, I don't really
I'll be
eat
pissed.
She made those from scratch.
That's my weakness. Like,
Those are good.
if you were to bring 10 of those in here, I could probably eat all 10.
Really?
Yes, that's why I try not to keep them around me.
Yeah, I've never been.
You know that expression, like a fat kid loves cake?
Yeah.
That's me.
That's you. You told that you're a fat kid.
All right, sound levels are good. We're good to go. Hopefully, all goes well.
Yeah, I'm a repressed fat kid.
Gentlemen, start your engines.
Are we charging cannons?
Yep. I got the Evan Williams, or we could do the honey. Doesn't matter.
doing
Could
the
you not
honey.
kill me this time, perhaps? Please?
Oh, shut up.
This time, put me a shot. I almost freaking died.
Right, Worshipful, are you partaking in the cannons?
I'll take a cannon.
I was hoping HR was here. I could use some of her frilly lotion from my
Thank you, sir.
ripped up
HR is at a hockey game. Let me go watch this.
yes. You were at a hockey game last
night, yeah.
Oh, yes.
Sound and video, perhaps. Yeah, we got sound and video, smart ass. I can see you right here. And video. Freaking people. I'm watching on YouTube. They're just
Who's
the
that holiday?
holiday, you know, the Discord
knew it.
guys that are freaking heckling me.
Nice.
Are we going to get yelled at? Is that why you're here?
Yeah,
I don't know. I can neither confirm or deny that.
Oh, Jesus.
we're getting yelled at
That's
at
what
some
he
point.
always says.
Honey or Evan Williams, right, Worshipful?
Huh?
I'll go with the Evans.
Evan's over there.
Oh, no, don't open it for me. Give me the honey then.
It'll get open, don't worry.
You should wear it, Ken. Don't put it on the puppet. Put it on you.
We messed my hair all up.
You can wear the wig.
I could wear the wig.
All
Just don't do
right,
the whole-
just
Needs to
don't
be
do the whole
combed.
the
Buffalo,
only thing is trying not to bang on the table because it reverberates to the mics, dragging things, picking things up, everything. Just give you a heads up, so you know. No, you can leave the phone up there. Just it
Well, if
reverberates.
it vibrates.
Yeah.
I got everything on silent.
Joe vibrates, so
Does he?
yeah,
Or you could be like,
You
laugh
can't
and
make-
just ignore it.
yeah. You can't make it through airport security ever. So,
That might be through the titanium in my leg.
all right, ready, boys?
Yes.
5, 4. I'll wait for you. Put your headphones. You're good. I was giving you a minute. That's all. I was being nice.
It's more like you're giving me a look.
No,
I just asked if you were ready. You weren't ready.
No.
I run a tight ship.
I was giving you a goddamn minute. 5, 4.
Yes, I'm ready.
Oh, we'll introduce you. Just so. 5, 4, 3, 2. Hello and welcome to the Freemasons podcast with your hosts, Right Worshipful Brother George Mudry,
Worshipful Brother Joe.
Worshipful Brother Ken.
and with us tonight, Right Worshipful Shane Dufresne of the Grand Lodge of the State of Connecticut, the Grand Senior Steward, also known as our podcast handler.
Thank you, brother.
I have to commend you. You've done a hell of a job over the last year or so.
Thank you.
Depends who you ask. But
Yeah,
Well,
sure.
have you listened to the first 10 episodes?
It's a running joke. Right Worshipful Shane is not our podcast handler, but in the beginning, he counseled us as to what
He whispered good counsel.
he did. Whisper good counsel
Very loudly.
Some of us adhered to some of it. Oh no, we did adhere to it. We
Well,
listened,
By
right?
we, if you mean Ken and I
have been,
yeah. By you, not so much.
I do listen.
You listen, but you don't apply.
I do apply.
No, you don't.
Red Sox better not take him to Jimmy's. Actually, Jimmy's downstairs is a Red Sox bar. It used to be a Yankees bar, and then
They smarten up.
when the owner came back and the particular guy who was renting Jimmy's before it was Jimmy's, when the owner came back, he said, "Get all this shit off my walls."
Yep.
And he threw it all away. So
Now it's a Sox bar.
downstairs
Smart man.
is a Red Sox bar without a doubt. So anyway, we're gonna do some quick housekeeping first, and then we'll get right into it. Joe,
Working on it.
Ken,
I'm working on it too.
and just for
I've got
those-
it. I've got it. I'm here.
just for those who like to write on YouTube and slap Bible verses, I can do the same thing too.
Yeah, I
So
saw that.
can you please not do that? Thank you. I'm not a devil worshiper.
We also read the Bible.
We read it. We might actually know it better than most people. And I love how they like to pick and choose certain things to make them look all righteous, but then
right.
they tend to ignore the things that make them not look so good.
Yeah,
But
sometimes.
anyway, I'm ready for the
Fire.
All right, we're gonna go with I.J. Purino, Wes Johnson, Thomas Wood III, Adam Schrontz, Harry Hickman III, George K.
Go on.
Sound it out.
Kallidides. It's definitely Greek.
Yeah.
Kollitides. So there's
I love watching you sweat, by the way.
well, it's Kallidides. I wanted to say something else with the combination of chlamydia, but I didn't want to do that out loud on the show, so I won't.
Yeah.
And last but not least, Scott Pinella, no relation to Lou.
Over on Instagram, we got Bradley Craig, Bill Southam, Eli Dardis, Justin Van Horn, Chris Britland, Mel Baby 95, Kevin Emery, Chrome Dick.
What the hell?
I'm sure that's his name. It's just okay. David Alexander, thank you, brothers and friends.
Did you see that Alfred Hitchcock thing I posted on Discord today?
Yeah.
It took me a while to figure out what that was too. I was like, wow.
On YouTube, we have Damian Vason, Dave Freeman, Farmer Stillness, and Kevin Emery. I think that's all we got. So let's lead the toast.
I do have to admit, I got super
Come on,
excited.
you did do it.
Ken,
All right.
it's your birthday.
I got
It is
super
my
excited. I
birthday.
thought Ken was going to say Bradley Cooper liked the show, but clearly not the case.
All right, you guys ready?
Ready?
Brethren, right hand to arms.
To arms.
Ready.
Ready.
Aim.
Aim.
Fire, good fire, fire all. Together, brothers.
Vivat, vivat, vivat. Right, Worshipful Shane, you did a good job. It's like you've seen it
I
before.
might have done it once or twice, or several.
Been here.
Been there, done that.
All right, I gave you the itinerary.
Yes.
Not that I do that for every guest, but I figured being that you could pretty much
Distinguished
have my
guest.
dues card pulled. I think it would be nice to do. No, you can't have my dues card pulled, but you could try though.
Special guest. He knows people that can ever
He
do.
knows
You
people.
can still take it away from you.
And that's our 3rd district representative.
Yeah, and realistically,
Yeah.
I mean, if you think of the mafia, you don't fuck with the underboss, right? You never mess around with the
Right.
underboss.
Yeah, he's
Johnny was worse than Castellano. Just throwing it out there.
Shane's like the
technically-
enforcer.
As a Grand Lodge officer representing District 3, technically he's kind of like in my boss by like a dotted line kind of way. So I got to be on my best behavior.
Some type of weird matrix.
Some kind of weird thing. Yeah. You're on the chart.
Organization.
You're on the chart.
I'm on the
All right, let's get started up. Right, Worshipful, what got you involved in Freemasonry? What turned you on to it? What?
Oh, what'd you do?
What I touch? What I touch? Like Jeff Goldblum in the Jurassic Park vehicle.
Yeah.
What did I touch?
You look more like Jeff Goldblum in The Fly.
So what got me into Freemasonry? Freemasonry was first introduced to me by a coworker back in early 2000s, and myself and another brother caught him practicing his ritual because he was a line officer. So we asked him about it, and he told us about it, and didn't give us too much information, and kind of piqued our interest a little bit. And I got into it because of the historical aspect. There's no Freemasons in my family that I've ever been made aware of. I didn't do any internet research on it. I just when I found out the historical connection with all the presidents and all the people who have done good for our country. I'm like, I want to be a part of that. So.
Question for you. This is coming from Greg Schultz, worship brother. Are Connecticut Grand Lodge officers below Junior Grand Warden appointed or elected? Delaware Grand Lodge officers are appointed and PM or worshipful brothers. Are all Connecticut Grand Lodge officers right worshipful brothers except Grand Master?
All right. So
It's a lot of questions.
There's a lot in there. So break it down.
I guess he's asking if is below the junior, the Grand Junior Warden. He calls it Junior Grand Warden, but the Grand Junior Warden. They're appointed.
We're appointed.
Successive line for the most part. I mean, unless you really suck, you're getting.
We've had some hiccups in the road. We unfortunately had a brother that was in the line that passed away a few years ago. So we had to make accommodations for that. But each coming Deputy Grand Master will ask the brother if he would like to progress up to the next chair.
We also had a Grand Master who had short man syndrome or
some people
Napoleon syndrome. But the
Are
Grand
you
Master
seriously baiting a Grand Line officer into answering that question?
Yes, I am. No, but the reason why I'm actually bringing it up for real is that it is the Grand Master's will and prerogative that if he decides to get rid of a Grand Line officer who is appointed, he can do it. He can just by the stroke of a pen.
He can. It's not very common, fortunately, but it's happened in our recent history. But for the most part, the deputy right now, the Deputy Grand Master for Connecticut is asking all of us that are in appointed positions if we would like our chair. So I've already accepted. So March, I'll be. Thank you. I'll be the Grand Senior Marshal.
Awesome. And he's also, the other question he's asked, the other half of it was, are all Grand Lodge officers right worshipful brothers except for the Grand Master?
Correct. Grand Master is most worshipful.
Including district deputies are considered right worshipables, and AGMs, which are your associate Grand Marshals, are just worshipful brothers.
Correct.
Everybody else down.
Yep.
AGMs,
retain
AGAs.
right worshipful, right worshipful, like yourself.
And we'll have permanent voting rights in Grand Lodge. I hate the district deputies that are past deputies that don't come exercise that.
I know.
I can't because
If you can exercise, you should exercise.
I know somebody already made a freaking comment about they can see my girth on the camera because it's
we're in 1080p now.
That's just a thick, like a big, oversized sweatshirt. Like it's not.
But
That enough.
But
Whiskey
whiskey
helps.
helps. Whiskey helps.
The camera does
fills
have a
out.
fisheye effect to it as well. So
Yeah.
you
So
know,
what do you
they
think?
always say the camera adds 10 pounds,
10
right?
pounds.
What are you saying? I'm elongated? Is that what you're saying?
No, you wish you were. In the other direction.
All right. All right. So you get into Freemasonry, you sign the petition,
Yep.
you start your process.
Yep.
What is going through your head when you take your entered apprentice degree? Again, I always ask the preparation room question. Are
Yep.
you shitting your pants when they ask you, you taking your clothes off? Like, what the hell did I get myself into? Or were you just kind of excited to go into it? What are your feelings?
I was told to keep an open mind and don't sweat it.
Mhm.
Every single person that has done this has done it before you. So I wasn't nervous. I was actually excited and that I was going to be a part of this fraternity. And I know some people, some lodges, they might have a more laid back, joking around and try to get the candidate riled up. Fortunately, that didn't happen, and I'm not an advocate of it. But I'm not putting down lodges who do that. Every lodge is different. So everything was very above the board, very professional, if you will. So once I got inside, I was even blindfolded. I was just very comfortable, and I was told just follow your guide.
Off our little itinerary that we have, do you wish you could have done the Chamber of Reflection? Question I get asked because there's a lot of lodges that don't have the Chamber of Reflection.
Unless you do it in the-
You've seen ours.
Yeah.
But do you feel like it would enhance and the other reason why I'm asking is there was like some seminar, I guess, right? That was about the Chamber of Reflection.
Yeah, I think
Yes, there was.
Committee on Masonic Education.
Yes.
put it on.
They just did a Chamber of Reflection. Do you feel like that enhances or useless? What do you feel?
I don't think it's useless. I think anything that's extra is good. Just depends how the person reacts, I guess.
Yeah, true. So take the Master Mason degree, progress through the chair. Excuse me. You take the Master Mason degree, and now were you voluntold to
Nope.
take a chair, or did you ask to take a chair?
No, neither.
Neither.
Um,
Really? Interesting.
Well, the good thing about my home lodge, and Ken being a brother there as well can attest that, the lodge is very strong. We have a lot of members, and unfortunately some lodges don't have the numbers, and newer members are asked right away, to plug a seat.
Yep.
I was raised in June of 2002. I sat on the sidelines for a year and a half, being able to enjoy it. 2002, 2003, around September, October, the incoming master in 2003 asked me, he goes, "You haven't missed a meeting in a year and a half. We think you're interested." And I'm like, I'm very interested. I jumped in with 2 feet and helped out, and I was asked to be the senior steward for the 2004 year, and then I was able to each step it away and have to skip a chair.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
Nice.
so
Very nice.
Not a luxury that I had, but
No.
I wish I could have actually done each chair along the way, because I feel like you get something out of every single chair that you take, and when you skip one, it kind of takes away from it, because then you go back and you're like, damn, I wish I could
There's
have done
different lessons in each chair.
right.
Most of yours were learned in the high
So
chair.
you became a steward back when Marty was cooking.
Marty was the junior
God
steward.
damn.
Oh, was he? Okay. Was he cooking?
I think
on that?
I don't remember. I think he was. I don't remember. He was a year. Yeah, he must have been. He was a year behind me. So yeah.
Okay. I was going to ask how it felt to scrub out the tomato sauce pot when it's been boiling like during the course of the entire meeting, and you come
Yeah.
back down, and the steward's job is to clean
To scrub
everything.
it?
And you got the
Again, Harmony Brothers. They just didn't stick the stewards in the kitchen. Everyone pitched in.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
true.
There we go.
Everyone pitched in, so it
Oh,
made
that's
my
good.
job a lot easier.
So you get to the master's chair.
Yes.
Go through the past master grade. We're not going to talk about that one because that's a fun one.
No.
But you become the master of the lodge. What were your highlights and your struggles of being the master of the lodge?
I'm gonna defeat the struggle one right off the top. I didn't have any struggles, and
Wow.
I'm not saying that. And I owe that all to every single officer that was underneath me.
You didn't have one thing that like shit hit the fan.
Usually it happens in your first month.
usually,
Like,
this is going to
seriously, it happens in your first month.
Or as you're getting out of the chair. That's when the other
Or
thing, like,
before you're even
like,
master.
I don't care no more. Like, I'm gone in a freaking week. Like,
Or before you even become master.
right.
What am I
Yeah.
doing here? No, actually, if you want to call this a struggle, it wasn't even a struggle. It was more of a dilemma. Halfway through my year as master, we were asked by Most Worshipful Lou Vanderrijk. She was a past matron in the Eastern Star. Her late husband was a brother of our lodge, and she was looking to sell her house to move out of state, and she needed the house painted. The lodge was going to donate the money to buy the paint, and we just needed brothers to paint the house, which we all said, yeah, absolutely. Well, June of 2009, and I remember this, out of 30 days in June, 21 of them were raining, misting, or some type of moisture, and we weren't going to get it done by the deadline that the bank wanted it done by.
Right.
So went to Lou after a meeting, Most Worshipful Lou, and I'm like, sir, I don't think we're going to get this done. I think we need to hire a professional painter that can come in and do it the right way, blah, blah, blah. And all the guys that were, the 5 or 6 of us that were a part of it, they were all standing off to the side, and I was like the little kid going up to the parent and saying, hey, this is the problem we're having. And Lou just sat there, kept nodding his head, and he goes, when a Mason gives his word, he gives his word.
Mm-hmm.
So I went back to the guys, and they were all standing there. Well, what did he say? What did he say? And I'm like, we got to get it done.
He said, do it.
So needless to say, we caught a break the last week in June, broke the weather broke, and we were able to finally get it done. Fortunately, it wasn't a big house, but that wasn't even really a struggle. It was a minor speed bump.
Right.
My whole entire year, I got to say, it was filled with a lot of fun. We did a lot of programs that we didn't do before. We did a widow's luncheon. We marched in a parade that we hadn't done in Waterbury that we hadn't done for a few years. A lot of the stuff, when I presented it to the guys, they were excited about doing it. Everyone from Marty, my senior warden, all the way down to the junior steward, Dave Andreski, everyone in between, they did a phenomenal job. Whatever I asked them, they did it. And it just, when you have that cooperation and level of enthusiasm from the brothers, they made me look like a star. And I got a lot of compliments at the end of the year. And I'm like, it's these guys who did it for me.
That's
So,
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, we always we've joked around before on other episodes where we were talking about, every master has one shit hit the fan situation. Or
Well, there's usually that first one that's like a baptism of fire. type
Yes,
thing. Like
yes.
there's a lot of stories and experiences.
and every master kind of has this. So I think that's pretty cool that you didn't have anything that really, Murphy's Law took over and Plan A doesn't stay intact. So that's pretty cool.
No.
What's the most gratifying thing when you were master?
As a master of the lodge?
What was that one thing that was like, this is cool, I'm glad I was master when this happened?
There's not one, and again, there's not one that really jumps out at me. It was just the entire year. Everything that we did, the widows' luncheon, we hadn't done that in a few years. We got, I believe we got 5 or 6 widows. They were happy to be there. They always seem to be forgotten about, and that's one of my pet peeves is when lodges don't reach out to the widows or the brothers who don't live in state anymore, the elderly brothers who can't get out. Marching in the parade, the Memorial Day parade, that was a highlight. I organized, we had a good run of about maybe 8 years. We did an annual fishing charter. We started it, fishing trip. We had a blast with that. There's not one thing that really jumps out. It's just, I look back at my year as master. It was the most fun I ever had as a Mason. And it's just because of everybody involved. I mean, we had easily 30 to 40 guys showing up at just business meetings.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
Yeah,
The brothers at Harmony are very, very good. If there's things going on at the lodge, they show up, and Ken can attest. I mean, we have good turnouts at all of our major events. I think we started up around that time. I don't know if it was the year before me, my year, or Marty's year, but we started up the George Washington dinner again, and that's
those dinners get people out.
yeah,
We
get a
those are
large
good
crowd
times.
for that. So
that's really cool.
yeah, it really is. Yeah,
So 2 years or 1 year as master?
1 year.
1 year as master.
Yep.
After you're done with master, what are you thinking? Right off to the sunset, or were you looking for more? And we'll get into Blue Lodge Council in a minute and what that's all about. But what are you thinking now? Because most masters, they get out of the chair. I won't say most.
There's a good
One
amount
thing-
that they just disappear.
Right.
We were just talking about pet peeves. My pet peeve is a past master who just done with his year and they just
Right.
go on.
I have my thoughts on that. We'll probably get to that later based on your agenda, why that happens. My year, I really didn't want it to end. As corny as that sounds, it was the truth. I was having so much fun, but we have to this day, we still have a strong line of officers. It's very rare that a master has to repeat a year, usually because somebody moves. Dan Sharkers had to do another year because a brother had to move away and he couldn't participate. The guy who's one of my signatures on my application that got me the sergeant there, who I found practicing his ritual, because of a job assignment, he couldn't take up his year as master. He had to step down as senior warden. So my year, I really didn't want it to end. I was having so much fun. And I really didn't have time to catch my breath. We were having our annual Christmas party, which I think was another thing that we started around my year. And the late past Grandmaster Art Carlstrom pulled me aside and he goes, "Do you want to be a district deputy?" And now my year is not even over yet.
At the Christmas party? Wow.
At the Christmas party.
That's a good little
Way to
Christmas
go,
present
Art.
for you.
Side note, just some housekeeping I want to keep up with. Worshipful Brother Greg Schultz, is the Assistant Grand Almoner a right worshipful? No.
No, I answered that in the comments.
No,
Yeah,
correct?
No, I am just worshipful.
Right.
It's very similar to the Associate Grand Marshal.
Right.
It's just brother, worshipful brother, depending on their current title.
Cool. Larry off the grind. Good afternoon. As of last Saturday, I could finally call y'all brothers. EA 21321. Congratulations.
Congratulations,
Congrats, brother.
Congratulations, Larry, off the grid.
For
not
by that
grind.
sacred appellation,
Grid.
we can now address you.
Grid. Larry off the grid. Okay. Well, grind, grid. Same.
It's
It's one of those shows. One of those shows where I'm just going to be all over
Yeah,
you.
I know. I can tell. All right. So you were district deputy before you were Blue Lodge Council president?
Yes.
Really?
Right after my year.
I think this is when I started to come. Well, I mean, I was coming as the junior warden and the worshipful master, but this is where I started to get more involved in Blue Lodge Council, and I kind of, I don't want to say rid your coattails, but you were you were the Blue Lodge Council president of the 3rd District, and I think I was chaplain, correct? Or vice president or something
You
like
had
that?
a couple different titles. I was president for 3 years. Yeah, I think you had a couple different titles. You were
Right.
the chaplain. I think you were the vice president.
Yep.
And my last year, I think you were the vice president. And then
Right.
you took over.
Right. So I can't remember if you were already a district deputy or
I became district deputy April of 2010
Right.
under Most Merciful Charlie Buck, and then the following year, second year with oh my God, drawing a blank. Jim McQuain, most merciful Jim McQuain. I think
Right.
there might have been a year in between my second year as district deputy and when I became Blue Lodge Council.
So if you can clear up just something for me, because this was something that was said to me back in the day, is that before the permanent members of 3rd District, I mean, this is before the whole saga that went on, before the permanent members would pick somebody to be a district deputy, you had to sit as president of the Blue Lodge Council, or it was encouraged that you did that. Do you know if that was?
If that is, I don't recall that. I'm not saying that wasn't the case. I just don't recall that being
Okay.
the.
All right.
It used to be way back in the day was at least for the 3rd District. I can't vouch for the other districts. Was
Right.
they used to rotate the lodges who would be a district deputy, whose turn it was.
Right.
But as numbers dwindled over the years, they couldn't do that anymore. So
No, because the reason why I'm asking is because I didn't realize. I thought you were a Blue Lodge Council president before you were district deputy, because I was president and was chosen to be district deputy, and it I don't want to say it was frowned upon, but they wanted. I think you actually counseled me on this. I think you said they wanted at least 10 years or something along those. They wanted a Mason who had been established before they would just throw a district deputy in the.
yeah,
in
that
the
was
chair.
that's the old school mentality, and like you should be, at least a Mason for 5, 6, 7 years, not 5, 6, 7 years, but at least a couple years before you get into the chairs. I mean, that's the ideal situation.
Right.
That doesn't always happen.
Traditionally, isn't it always? It's not always, obviously, because you went straight to district deputy. But isn't it customary, I guess, for a brother to be tapped for associate grand marshal?
That's another situation where it's ideal. You want
But it
to be
doesn't always work out.
No, it doesn't work out that way for a lot of different reasons. Just a lot of people can't commit to it. A lot of people don't want to be a district deputy. But that's another one of those things where ideally, if you could be an AGM first, an associate grand marshal, so you get a taste of what it's like to be a district deputy. Like, do I actually really want to do this after you see the district deputy going through what he goes through?
Another regret of mine that I wasn't able to be an AGM before a DD. I went right to DD, and luckily I was smart enough to know that, I better read the rules and regulations and bone my ass up before I just, take this chair and, run around like a chicken with my head cut off, not knowing what was going on. But that's the reason why I was asking, is because I was kind of thrown to the wolves, and, based off of what you just said, that you were, district deputy before you were Blue Lodge Council president, if you had that same sort of like where you took the district deputy and you were like, holy shit, what did I get myself into?
Right.
Because I kind of had that feeling in the beginning myself, like, oh my God. And then with God, what happened in his lodge was, holy shit.
It's overwhelming if you don't know what it entails. And I had no idea what it entailed. Just being an officer at a lodge, what the district deputy does when he comes in. He does the inspection, but you don't see what goes on behind the scenes, all the requirements. And like you, I wish I was an AGM, because then it kind of prepares you for your year or years as district deputy. So yeah.
A couple things I just want to get to a couple of comments that we're getting here. Larry off the grid said thank you for his toast there. We have a brother named Charles that says, good afternoon, brother. Shane, lose that damn jacket. That would be
it's not going anywhere.
Charles, aka Chip Schofield, is watching us today.
Sorry, Chip.
Sox fan.
There's been a call for Jai Everlin, who said we haven't seen Joe's green jacket in a couple of episodes. That's because I'm driving a new car and the green clashes with the gray and black. So I'm that OCD.
You're extra.
Chip Schofield said I agree with the brother being an AGM before being a DD.
100%.
And I just wanted a quick timeout to shout out to brother Chip Schofield. Appreciate him hopping on today. Gave him a call before and said, hey, hop on. It's going to be a lot of fun today. So good to see him here. Love you, brother.
Absolutely, Chip.
Definitely agree with. I wish I would have been an AGM before a DD, only because, my year, the Grandmaster decided to just change the entire inspection form and just basically throw it out the window.
Right.
But the second year, when we went back to the old farm, there's a lot of financials on there.
Mhm.
And I also wish I would have known what I could and could not do, because I did have one secretary who, you already know who I'm talking about, didn't want to give me any financials. And I didn't know what's the power of a DD when a secretary goes, no, up yours, get out. in so many
You're
words.
funny. As it turns out, you're now that guy.
Who?
You're the secretary. So you know up yours. Or you were.
Yeah.
Not anymore.
Switch roles.
But you were.
Chip Schofield, George, we are all alike. Holy shit. What did Grand Lodge do making you DD?
Is there a height requirement?
Yeah. Well, seriously?
What? I told you it was going to be one of those days.
I know. So you were Blue Lodge Council president. You just quick and tail. You just kind of tell everybody what Blue Lodge Council is and what being the president means. I don't think we've ever covered this. That's why
No, I don't know that we did.
we did.
No, I don't think that we did.
No, we didn't. So
All right. Well, in the 3rd district, at least, and it's probably more or less the same throughout the 9 districts in Connecticut, is Blue Lodge Council is where every other month between September and May, all the lodges get together. And from what I understand from the really old timers who I love listening to, I love listening to stories. I'm Generation X. I'm caught in between the baby boomers and the millennials and the other generations. So I can appreciate the old timers, and I can also appreciate the younger generations of where we are. But Blue Lodge Council was where lodges used to get together at the every other month meeting, and they would discuss what was coming up in their lodges, events. This was long before the internet and emails and stuff like that, and they didn't want to pay for postage to send out all the flyers about what they were doing. So what do Masons do? They get together, they have a meal, and the Blue Lodge Council in the 3rd district was a hopping thing back in the day, talking to old timers like Ed Ross and Louis Vanderreich and Art Karlstrom. There easily be 75, 80 Masons at one of these meetings. There's some type of Masonic lectures and information, and it was just really just a chance to get together and help each other out.
So I'm going to change it a little bit, because I did have an itinerary. I was going to talk about one thing.
It's usually bad when you go.
I want to talk about the reason why he brought it up. He goes, because I appreciate the old timers and the young guys. And so there is a quote unquote old timer who was supposed to be getting his 50-year pin this year from Morningstar. He's already got a smile on his face.
Okay.
He knows where he's
I know
going. Do you
I
know
know-
the story?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And so it's customary that the Grand Lodge representative of that district is to give the pin, 50-year pin, to the brother of the said lodge, whatever it is.
Right.
This one particular brother decided that he wanted. He wrote, a right worshipful so and so, and then he put and GM. Okay, so I'm like, wow. I mean, he actually wants the Grand Master to come down and present him his pen. All right, whatever, tomato. It's your prerogative. What I didn't realize is that my initials were also GM, and he meant me.
Oh.
So this is as I'm leaving the secretary's chair now. Like I'm already in landing mode, right? The gears are down, the flaps are up. Like I'm coming in for landing, right?
Yeah.
And so I sent him and I said, listen, this is going to be the new secretary, Jim Rafferty. And I said, the Grand Lodge officer, who is Shane Dufresne, is supposed to be giving, is the ones who give you your pin.
Mm-hmm.
And I left it at that, and I walk away. So a couple weeks ago, I'm driving in my truck, and I get an email. I pull over to the side of the road and look at the email, and it's a said right worshipful who decided to say, yeah, Brother Modry, if you want Brother Modry to do it, not a problem. He could do it for you. And I want to thank you for that sandbag, because I thought I was out. I thought it was out. I thought it was done, like a landing mode. And then,
Well, you know what? It's my honest opinion that, it's the brother who's receiving the pin on how he wants to receive it. He can receive it in the mail. He can receive it when things are normal at the Nutmegger reunion down in Florida. He can receive it in Lodge. He can receive it at Blue Lodge Council. This brother wants Right Worshipful Brother Mudry to present his 50-year pin, and who am I to deny that brother the honor and privilege of getting his pin from you?
so I just want to be clear on a couple things before I continue with this, is that you should always address a Grand Lodge officer by Right Worshipful whoever. You
Right,
should always
right.
show much. Me and you have had a long history of going through a whole ordeal.
Mhm.
So me and you have become very close friends and everything. So normally I wouldn't be calling up a Grand Lodge officer and saying this, but I did call up and I went, "You son of a bitch."
Yeah, way to show deference.
After I hit the send button, I
He was already laughing. He's already
laughing.
He picks up the phone and he's already going,
I literally timed myself after I hit the send button. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to be getting a call less than 10 minutes. And I think it was like 4 minutes later.
realistically, I don't mind doing it. It was just a funny little thing. I'm like, "You son of a bitch, you sandbagged me." But all right, so you're done with Blue Edge Council. You're done with District Deputy. What are you thinking now? Do you want to move up to the Grand Line, or are you happy riding off to the sunset at this point?
This has been my philosophy ever since I became a Mason. And this was told, and this is why I can appreciate the old timers, and because where they come from, is don't expect anything in Masonry. Don't expect to become an officer. Don't expect to become the master of your lodge. Don't expect to be an AGM, a district deputy. Don't expect anything. Whatever you get comes to you because of what you do in the fraternity. You should not be doing anything with the expectation of, I'm going to be a district deputy or I'm going to be the Grand Lodge officer. You should be doing stuff as a Mason because it's in your heart, not because you have your eyes set on a bigger prize. So, like I said, listening to guys from my lodge, like Lou Vanderrijk and John Van Kirk and Dave Sharkus and Joe Sear, all these past district deputies, and Lou being a past Grand Master, we do things because it's in your heart and you want to do the right thing, not because, hey, look at me, look what I did. I deserve to be a district deputy or I deserve to be a Grand Lodge officer. So I was honored and floored when they asked me to be the guy to scrub the dishes, to be a steward. Like, really? You want me to scrub dishes? Okay. And then when Art asked me again, I never expected it. It was always told to me, don't ever expect anything. So that's what I try to tell newer Masons. When Art asked me to be a district deputy, it really knocked me over. I was floored. And the same thing when I was asked for the Grand Line.
You reading that one?
Hey, Right Worshipful Chip Schofield writes, doesn't Right Worshipful Shane realize he's one of the old timers now?
No, I'm not. Well, I'm not, Chip. Not yet.
No, but to your point, and on that philosophy, I think that's my own philosophy too. It's like, I'm going to do what I'm going to do,
Right.
regardless of if you give me a title or a different color apron or whatever. I'm still going to do my thing. If you give me a larger platform to do it on,
Right.
great, because
Right.
that's how I can help the fraternity better. But if you don't, I'm still going to do my thing. It doesn't change who I am as a Mason and what I want to do. And like you said, what's in your heart.
What's in your heart?
Yeah.
That's what we're asked,
If you go into it expecting to get some sort of reward or award or appointed some position or something like that, you're doing it wrong anyway.
Right.
Right. Your
Right.
Ashler's a little rough in
Right.
that case because that's kind of counter to what being a Mason is all about.
And I think a lot of guys get disappointed because they're like, well, I do all these fundraisers. I do this chip program. I do this. I do that. And no one's asking me. That's the wrong attitude, I think.
Well, we talked about the
Well, you shouldn't go
title
in,
chasers a couple episodes ago.
you shouldn't go into anything expecting that, oh, look what I did, put a feather in my cap and look, see what I'm doing, because that's not a good. You shouldn't do, just like you said, you shouldn't do things with the expectation that there's going to be a reward at the end of it, because most of the most charitable acts go unrecognized.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
And
I
it kind
totally
of-
agree with that.
It falls in line with most worshipful grandmasters, past grandmaster Mel Johnson's philosophy and what he had on his pin. And if I butcher the pronunciation, Mudita, which is finding happiness and joy from the happiness of others.
Right.
That's your reward, is seeing other people happy.
That's what we're supposed to be doing as Masons.
Exactly.
So, question for you.
Yes.
Again, not bringing up the
Not bringing it up, but I'm going to bring it up.
No. I'm gonna
No offense, but
I'm
you're
gonna
about
word
to
it-
be offended.
I'm going to word it differently. That we did have, a point where there was a little bit of power trip.
Mhm.
How do you find it as moving into the Grand Lodge, a Grand Line, and how do you ground yourself? Because again, one of the things we've said before many times, famous quote: "Power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts absolutely." What grounds you? And the reason why I'm asking again, talked about it in the podcast. Joe's busting my balls. I got a fucking puppet named after me. It's my show. But one of the things I do is I delegate power. I give, I try to make it so that I don't have the final say in anything, and this keeps me from going off the rails, which we all know can happen.
Like, you mean when we get together in a pre-production meeting, we're like, okay, we're going to talk about this. We're not going to talk about this.
And then we talk about it.
But then we talk about it anyway because you decide that you're doing it anyway.
Yes.
Okay. Just
Something
want
like
to
that.
clarify.
How do you, as a Grand Line officer, how do you feel? Do you feel that that's a worry? Because how do I put this? Grandmasters have extreme power.
Right.
We've seen cases, not just in Connecticut.
Well, even recently in South Carolina, there was that whole dust up.
Yes.
I'll leave it at that.
Where a grandmaster or somebody gets up to that point where they have absolute power.
Mhm.
How do you keep yourself grounded? How would you say you keep yourself grounded?
Well, for me, off the top of my head, it's two things. I know you guys know what I do for a living. A police officer. Police officers have a lot of power. Okay, so becoming, and I'm going to parlay into this connection, if it makes any sense, is having power isn't something new to me. Okay, there's unfortunately some people who never had any type of power in their life, and now they get a taste of it, and they don't know how to ground themselves.
Good point.
Being a police officer for 25 years, having some type of power, if you will, I don't look at it as having power. I look at it as I'm doing the will of the brothers. The other thing that really keeps me grounded is my brothers. Is when I'm a current district deputy and someone in my lot says, "Hey, we need you to take out the garbage." Okay.
Right.
Yeah, he still does that.
Yeah.
I've seen it.
So the brothers in my lodge, they keep me grounded, and I don't think I this is my personal belief. I don't think I have a power. I don't think I'm egotistical.
Right.
I have brothers like Chip Schofield, who's listening, Marty McCary, George, Ken, all these guys that I look at as my brothers and mentors, and they're my equals. I'm not, they're not my subordinates. I'm not superior to them. And I think we keep each other in check. And we know where everyone stands. And I don't go into a lodge because I have a purple apron on now, like, I'm on some power. I really don't. I don't think I do. And I think it stems from from my career, and B, the brothers in my lodge.
So on that subject about talking about the purple, we've done the purple stigma before about wearing a purple apron. And again, I've worn purple, you've worn purple. And sometimes you walk in a lodge and that shit turns ice freaking cold. How do you break that? How do you show the brothers that? And again, my thing was, drinking a lot of bourbon at Washington 19, which I probably shouldn't have drove home, and I don't condone driving home afterward, but police officer. No, but that's how I broke my ice with particular set of brothers. How do you do it?
Well, fortunately for me, I've been around the block now. For a new district deputy, it's harder, especially if you're from the northern part. If you're from one part of our district and you're down at the other end, and if they don't know you, it's going to take you a little bit long. It's going to take anybody a little bit longer. But I was a district deputy for 2 years. I was the Blue Lodge Council president for 3 years. I was the Grand Almoner for 4 years. So the guys got to know me, and they know what I'm about. And I always, a lot of masters when I came to the lodge as a district deputy outside of the inspection, or as a Grand Almoner, or as my current position, do you want to be received? No, I don't need to be received. Do you want to sit up in the east? No, I'm going to sit with the brothers on the sideline. Right. Some guys want to sit up in the east, that and I'm not discrediting them for wanting to do that.
Brother Shake, just watch your hands because you're blocking the mic. You're good.
Sorry. I'm part Italian, so I talk with my hands.
The good part.
The good part. So I think,
isn't your name French though? Dufresne?
Yeah.
Oh, so half of you wants to fight all the time, the other half wants to surrender. How do you deal with that?
It's a struggle. It's a power struggle. But Italians and French, we're both lovers, so I got that going for me. So
sorry,
it's the only power struggle.
I had the shot, so I took it.
Yeah, you got to take the shot.
But as you progress, the brothers get used to you. You're around more often, so they know. After a while, when I walk in, there's really not. Oh my God, the purple's here. It's it's Shane.
Yeah,
which is the way I want. There's a time to be courteous and professional. There's other times table lodge and whatever. We're just brothers.
Do you feel that some grandmasters get to that point where they walk in and they try to just own the room? There's some of them that have been the most humble I've ever met in my entire life. And one of those, I gotta get the shout out. Right, most worshipful Mel Johnson.
Mel was one.
He came up here and hung out with us, and he was the most humble, cool grandmaster. That one of the best I think that we've ever had. And then there's others that are just look at me.
It's been my experience that the overwhelming majority of the brothers who get to be grandmaster, they are very humble and contrite. There's really only one that I can see that it went right to his head immediately. Another brother who I try to model myself outside of most worshipful Lou Van der Eyck is the late brother. Well, they're both late, but the most recently late is Art Karlstrom. Art Karlstrom is the sitting grandmaster. Would walk into lodge and would not put on his purple and his gold. He would grab a white apron. I'm here as a brother. I'm not here as a grandmaster.
He was a riot, by the way, too. Art Karlstrom was hysterical. I never had the pleasure to meet Lou Van der Eyck, most worshipful.
Lou was another one of the most humblest men you ever met.
Art Karlstrom, man, he's a funny dude. He was hysterical.
He was.
And I tell you, that's a powerful statement when a grandmaster walks into your lodge and wears the white apron and doesn't want to sit in the yeast. I've had the experience too. While I was master, most worshipful brother Jim McQueen was one of them, and most worshipful brother Tom Maxwell. Same thing.
Yeah, Tom Maxwell too. Yeah,
Yep.
White apron doesn't want to be received.
Tom Maxwell, he left the Grand East and then became marshal at our lodge.
Right.
Yeah, I mean he's.
Me and him had some libations at a table lodge one time.
Also that,
But it's a powerful statement, and it's good because then it gives maybe that young and up and coming guy an example to look towards and go, wow, that was memorable.
Right.
That's what I'm going to emulate that as if I am fortunate enough to go through that path.
That was one of the things that really start me on my way of getting the purple and gold. Is my year in the East, 2009, Art Karlstrom was the grandmaster. He was the 3rd district representative. So when you see a guy, and Art Karlstrom was called Mr. Mason in Waterbury. He was the head of every body in Connecticut, Scottish Rite, the York Rite bodies, D. Molay. He was a D. Molay kid from when he was a kid. He was the guy. He was like the epitome of what Masonry is. And like Joe was saying, when he walks in, does not put on his grandmaster apron or his jewels, and he grabs a white apron. And I asked him, "You don't want to be received?" He goes, "I'm a brother. I'm not here as a grandmaster." That's one of the things that stuck in my head is the grandmaster is going to sit here in a white apron. Yeah. Who the heck am I as a district deputy to walk in like I own the room?
And it sticks with you. It
really
does stick with you.
It really does.
Just on a side note, though, every time Joe walks into the lodge room, I grab my jewels. Clover Style Hitman.
If you don't, I will.
Clover Style Hitman says, thanks for the wisdom. Obviously, a lot of knowledge at that table.
Yeah. It's leaning more towards my left, but
we've had some stuff
happen. We've had some stuff. But, I think...
I got something in my eye real quick. Right?
There are 2 stories I want to tell regarding some of my interactions with Right Worshipful Brother Shane. That, like, anybody can sit here and tell you their perspective, but I can tell you that he doesn't just talk the talk, he walks the walk. The first interaction that I had with Right Worshipful Brother was when he was the Grand Almoner, and there was a widow up in the Bristol area, I want to say, that needed to have a roof put on her house. And if I remember correctly, she had a contractor that kind of split on her halfway through the job. Or maybe she ran out of money. Whichever the case, the job was half finished. The roof was torn off, and we had a hurricane coming in about a week.
Oof.
So as Grand Almoner, he put the word out and said, I need help. We need to get as many brothers together to try to accomplish this. And, it was a little far from my district, but I said, screw it. I'll drive up and I'll help out that day. Nice. And, I was there for 3-4 hours on a Saturday or Sunday. I forget what it was, but I was there to pitch in. But he put together a project. That roof got done before, probably 3 or 4 days before the hurricane hit. So it was done. But that was, I think, the first year. Your first year as Grand Almoner, or relatively early on.
It was my second year. Okay. It was my second year, I think. It was Ted Nelson was the Grand Master at the time.
But it was a big deal. It was like to me, again, it kind of renewed my faith in this is what we do.
Right.
Widows in need, and like you said, we often forget about our
We do.
widows. Unfortunate, and it's just not condoning it, but it's one of our faults. We often forget, and to be involved with that project even a little bit for a few hours on one day, it gave me a good sense and a good renewal. I forget where I was in line at the time. But the other interaction we had was recently, and I'm going to be very vague on this purposely. Late spring, early summer, there was some stuff going on in the country, and I had a certain particular point of view that, at least on the surface initially, it looked like maybe we had a different point of view based on his profession. And we reached out to each other, and we ended up getting together and went and had breakfast with Right Worshipful Brother Chip Schofield as well. Just, I guess Chip showed up just in case,
I needed that.
just to make sure. But we sat down and we had a conversation. And even though we had different questions and different opinions and maybe even different point of views, some that I would never understand unless I walked in his shoes, we had a great conversation. And on top of that, it was great fellowship.
Right.
And it just goes to show that we don't always have all the answers. We don't always see things the same way. But we can find that common ground and still have fellowship at the end of the day. And those are just things that, tip of the cap to you. You live what you're talking about. It's not just, hey, let me throw this out there. And I've had 2 personal experiences that I just wanted to share and back that up.
I totally agree with Brother Joe. However, just a minute ago, when we were talking about the roof, I was thinking of like the scene in Ben-Hur when they're all on the bottom of the boat, talking about doing the roof. Right, Worshipful Shane's just there whipping them.
I only had to do it once or twice.
Well, yeah, you did. Yeah,
not for nothing, though.
I had to at one point.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, and I remember that specifically. We'll talk about that offline. But that was like, I'm like, oh man, I'm glad that's not me.
But I'm gonna follow that up with is, as my year as master in 2009, I got a lot of kudos and attaboys. I deflected it to my officers because I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it without the 8 guys underneath me. We spent 2 weekends at that Widow's Lodge, and guys like you, some guys showed up, they were there, 10 hours a day, all day. Other guys were there 3, 4, whatever they can spare. I mean, people have families, they have other things they got to do, they got work. Over the course of 2 weekends, Ken Tarwood was there, I know. There was, I want to say, close to a total of 60 guys over both weekends that showed up for all or part of that weekend.
Right.
Shane Dufresne didn't do that.
Right. 60
brothers who got together did that. And, I got the pat on the back from the Grand Lodge officers, and I'm like, no. 59 other guys that were there, we got it done.
In
Is it
regards
possible
to
that you and I met that weekend and didn't really know?
I think so, yeah.
That's funny.
Because I was just thinking back to that because you said that you were there, and I'm like, I don't remember Joe.
I was there the second weekend.
No shit.
And Ken came prepared. I remember him having work boots on, so he came to work.
I brought my own hammer too.
You did?
Yeah.
I think I might have
Everybody
brought
thought it was cute.
I might have brought my tool back.
Yeah. It was like one of those yellow, like anti-vibe vinyl. They're like, that's
Yeah,
not
like
a
the
fucking
Stanley
hammer. The
anti-shock
contractors
ones,
making
yeah.
fun of me.
I mean, I don't know what the situation was where Shane had to whoop some ass.
Oh,
or
it's a
whatever.
good one. I'll tell you later.
It doesn't
Yeah, I
matter though.
remember
But
that.
let's be real though. What happens when a bunch of Masons get together?
We screw around.
Yeah, it turns into a giant.
We need to be whipped in shape sometimes.
Sometimes-
were you
sometimes
there the
you need
weekend that happened? Do you recall?
You'll have to tell me after what happened.
Yeah, we'll
because
talk about it
It's
afterwards.
possible that I saw it and just forgot about it.
Unfortunately,
No, you wouldn't
that is the
forget about
one
it. Okay.
downside of when Masons do charitable events or when do charitable things. Like, for instance, we do our car show, and I could just remember Worshipful Brother Phil Miller in the golf cart.
Yeah.
Just doing laps around the freaking parking lot. Like,
Yeah.
what are you doing? Come on, we got So
That's
that
me
type
at the
of-
old Ashler Aspetuck golf tournament.
Yeah,
The golf starts.
sometimes these charitable things that we're supposed to be doing things either turn into a talking fest or they turn into a shit show where you need somebody like Shane to come in and be like, hey, get off your ass and go grab something. You know what I mean? So let's get into the last half of this. You're a Grand Lodge officer.
Yep.
What is your we'll call it the state of the craft address.
State of the craft, huh?
How do you feel the state of Masonry is right now, either in Connecticut, worldwide? I mean, granted, I know we got this COVID crap
Yeah.
going on. But
Right.
how do you see masonry advancing, getting better, taking, going even further down into the negative? And if so, what improvements have you seen, or do you recommend that masonry makes?
I'm going to be honest. I can't speak for worldwide. I'm not in tune to what's going around the world in other grand jurisdictions. I can speak a little bit about the United States, but more specifically about Connecticut. Is, in my opinion, right now we're in a process of evolving and changing. And we can spend a couple hours on a podcast as to why masonry is changing and what's happening in Freemasonry. The big part of it is we simply don't have the numbers that we used to, and that's just not in Freemasons. A couple years back, a couple of the top 3 or 4 Grand Lodge officers, they actually met with their counterparts in other fraternities, the Elks, the Knights of Columbus. Their membership is down. Guys are just not joining fraternities like they used to. I work with 5 police officers who are military veterans. Not one of them belonged to the VFW or the American Legion. That's something that their grandfather, their father did. All fraternity numbers are down, and we could speculate as to why. Probably the biggest reason is family dynamics have changed. Guys are working 2 jobs. Guys are
The idiot box, as I call it, the phone.
Guys are staying at home at night because their wife is working. So it's not like the old days, like, Ralph Cramden and his sidekick going to lodge that night, once a week. Bowling leagues are gone just about away because people are just not, they don't want to commit to something where they have to be because their life is always in flux. So,
Hey, Norton.
So I've never seen it.
Oh.
Must be a 40-year-old thing or a 50-year-old thing, right?
This is why we're the best
50,
generation.
40.
This is
Yeah,
why
exactly. It is.
you freaking millennials. I think we established that technically you guys are millennials.
Me and Ken are millennials.
Yeah, I'm like
In fact,
right
yes.
on the cusp.
Of course you are.
So am I.
Of course you are.
I'm 80,
Of course you are.
82. When the hell was I born? 82.
Oh,
1982.
okay. So you're 1 year after me.
No, I'm literally like floating, but
Oh, okay.
my mind is 1 year prior.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, we're Gen Xers through and through mentally.
On what you were saying about the craft, membership flux, do you think it's a good thing that they're actually getting smaller? We had an episode not too long ago where we discussed that. I think the phrase I used was the shit you own ends up owning you. For instance, we have big hospitals, we have big things that we have going on, and what happens is now you have a shrinking membership with all these big giant enterprises and charitable things. So they're great, don't get me wrong, but what ends up happening is the craft suffers to try to keep these things in play.
Right.
So do you think masonry should be smaller, or do you want the numbers to be exponentially high?
I hate to sound like a Debbie Downer. Is masonry is not going to see the numbers that we saw.
No.
It's just not going to happen.
Agreed.
I would love to it. Ideally, who wouldn't want a couple hundred lodges in their state with tens of thousands of Masons? The more, the better. The more we can do. Freemasonry hit its peak in Connecticut in 59 or 60. We had 60,000 Masons, and since then, every 20 years, the membership declines in half. So we're right now, give or take, about 8,000 Masons in Connecticut. It's going to continue to drop. As soon as the baby boomers are gone, that's what's keeping the numbers afloat right now. We're going to level. My personal guess, and I don't have any stats or any magic wand to verify this. My guess is we're going to level off probably somewhere around 4,000 to 5,000 Masons in Connecticut. We have 90 lodges right now. Some lodges are really, really struggling to hold a meeting. They can't get members to show up, and this is not to be, again, a Debbie Downer, but these lodges need to look at themselves and say, are we functioning properly as a Masonic lodge? I get it. You were the master of the lodge. Your grandfather was a past master of the lodge. You have this number. Masonry isn't about the numbers. It's not about your lodge name. It's not about your lodge number. It's about what you do.
Pride goeth before a fall. And when you're too proud to admit, hey, we're in deep shit here, unfortunately, you back yourself into a corner where you just won't let go. And, I've always, I don't know if I was joking with you or Trip Schofield or somebody I was talking to about, being a DD and saying, hey, maybe you guys should merge. It's like your death sentence to actually, to go in there and spit knowledge and say, hey, maybe you guys should merge with this other lodge. And you want to talk about, all unholy hell being unleashed on you for simply saying the word merge.
Right.
It'll get you, it'll get you thrown out of that, in a sense, thrown out of lodges, but people would be pissed off at you.
Yeah, but I can tell you from personal experience that sometimes those real conversations are exactly what a lodge needs to wake up, because people that haven't been there, the past masters that don't show up or members that don't regularly attend, start to hear about these conversations like, what the hell happened?
Right.
And you have to look them in the eye and say, well, part of the reason is because you haven't been here.
Right.
And other brothers like you
Right, Worshipful
haven't been
Chip
here.
just said the same thing. He said lodge consolidation is the answer.
Right.
But you have no idea how many lodges, they just don't want to hear it. Like, they just are just so stuck in their
But
damn
but
ways.
then you know what? Take the wake-up call that you're actually having that conversation and try to turn it around.
I mean, I look at it this way, though. I mean, we had an instance not too long ago that the Grand Master walked into a lodge. I don't want to give town or location or anything, but he walked into a freaking lodge, and there was 3 Masons there. It was the top 3, and that was it. And he basically said, you're on probation, and you're going to lose your freaking charter. So if you're so prideful that you're, we're going to, if you're not going to be able to realistically weather the storm, I would much rather consolidate, keep a chip of your history,
And go on your own
rather
terms.
than just have
Right.
it yanked out from underneath you.
Agree, 100%.
If I could just give one little story about that. When I was district deputy, we had a lodge in our district who's no longer, they wind up turning their charter about 6 months after my second year. It was the same thing. It was said for years that this lodge was struggling, blah, 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 that whole thing that goes along with it. So,
Is this in 3rd district? Or
yeah,
something?
no, lodges no longer, they turned in their charter 2011-ish, second half. But I went to myself and my AGM, Marty McCary, went to every single one of their meetings for 2 years. Every single meeting. I would say easily 95% of the meetings, if we weren't there, they didn't have 3 Masons to open. So myself and or Marty would have to sit in one of the 3 chairs just so the master can open the lodge.
I mean, we've been lucky here where we were able to build membership, and we're
Right.
doing just fine now. But
But when it was talked about them facing the inevitable, what are you doing here? And this wasn't new to me.
Right.
Our Karlstrom, when he was a district deputy 20 years before he was Grand Master, said that lodge should have been closed down back then.
Yeah.
They would, every time the discussion came up, guys would literally fly in from Florida, drive down from New Hampshire, Vermont. No, we're not closing. My grandfather was master. So,
yes, the infamous past master assassination right there.
So I'm sitting there for this one particular meeting because the conversation came up again. The room was full. The lodge wasn't a big room to begin with, but it was full. Now, mind you, just a few months prior, myself and another Right Worshipful Andy Wyman installed the officers of the lodge. Half of the officers were not at the installation. Only one sitting officer had people there. There was no one else on the sideline except for his wife and his 2 young kids. So now we're fast forward to this meeting, and this respected brother from the lodge is like, every so often we got to do this. Why does Grand Lodge want to take our charter? All these excuses as to why they shouldn't shut down. So I let everyone talk, and everyone had their say. So the sitting master at the time says, Right Worshipful, do you have any words? Stood up, and I'm like, thank you. I'm like, that's great that you guys are here. Where were you for the installation? Where were you when myself and my AGM had to sit in a chair just so you can open a meeting? And the one respected guy that did most of the talking, this is the one that kind of kept the lodge going for 20, 25 years. He drove down from New Hampshire to do his talking. And I said what I had to say. And I'm like, listen, it is what it is. We're not taking the charter from you. We're just asking you to look and see, why are you continuing to do this when none of you are here?
Right. And
he finally, he stood back up and he says, you know what? You're right. I'm paraphrasing and shortening what he said. And, by the time the process happened, it carried over into the next district deputy. But trust me, a lot of people are always worried about Grand Lodge wants to take your charter. They want to suspend you. They want your money is always a big thing. It's like Grand Lodge does not want any of that. I've been a Grand Lodge officer between my current position, Tom Maxwell's marshal, a Grand Almoner. Not once has it ever come up in a Grand Lodge meeting, we're going to take their charter or we want their money. Grand Lodge looks good if we have
I just
a lot of
pictured-
lodges.
I just pictured Mr. Burns in his office. Yes,
Yeah.
get the money.
Yeah, it looks better if we're thriving.
If we're thriving.
If you have a thriving lodge that's out in the community doing great things, that's the best advertisement you could possibly have.
And on the flip side, we as a whole, we look bad when you get a lodge that's really struggling. You get a guy that comes in because, hey, I want to be a Mason, and he comes in and he shows up for 10 business meetings a year. They're not doing Masonic things. He's
Right,
like, why am I
right.
joining this?
So let me ask a question. What are your? I mean, I know you're the senior warden of your lodge. What are you in your lodge? What position do you hold?
Tyler right now.
Shane, do you hold anything in your lodge?
Not my lodge,
chair.
no.
So one of the gauges that I me personally have for a lodge is if my lodge can sustain itself is to take somebody who has always been the patriarch of the lodge, such as me or Joe or whoever the patriarch may be, and tell them you don't want to take a chair next year.
Mhm.
Can
Yeah.
your lodge survive without you there?
Right.
If your lodge can survive without you there, I think you're okay.
Right.
But we have this thing where we have lodges where they have these 2, maybe 3 guys who we call them a clique, right? We did the whole episode
we
on the
did,
clique.
yep.
It's the clique that runs the show. They're the ones that are keeping the lodge afloat. If you pull those 1, 2, 3 brothers out of the line, take them away, walk away, take a Masonic vacation,
What
go
happens?
away for 6 months.
Right.
What happens to that lodge?
Yeah.
If that lodge cannot keep itself afloat, you got nothing.
Right.
You got to merge.
You're in a bad
have
spot. You're
no
in a bad
choice.
spot.
Right.
So let's get away from the doom and gloom.
Yes.
Let's get to the last section.
Yes.
Funny Masonic stories about things that have happened. That a lot doesn't have to be in your lodge. It could be any lodge, something that you've seen that was absolute hilarity, and you'll never forget it. It sticks with you because we all have our stories about shit that goes wrong. I talked about Gary Tuccio when I asked, what the hell is that line I used? Withdraw now while there is yet time. And he comes back and he goes, nope. And I freaking lost it, and I was done for the rest of the degree. Something that happened to you that was
Outside
couple
of the
stories.
outside of the past master degrees, which we won't talk about.
Oh, yeah.
The one thing that really sticks out, and because he continues to break my balls to it about this day, is Chris Martinelli. I hope you're watching this, Chris, because I'm giving you a shout out right now. A bunch of us met at the Home Depot parking lot in Waterbury because we were commuting to a lodge. I might have been the Blue Lodge Council. I don't remember what position I had at the time, but I was meeting 2 brothers from Liberty, me and Marty McCary, and I'm driving. So I say, everybody all set? And I hear 3 yups. And I start to drive away. Apparently, Chris Martinelli's not all the way in the car.
I thought he was sleeping.
He probably fell
He might have
asleep.
he probably fell asleep.
And I don't want to say he got dragged, but he.
I want to officially. Yeah, it wasn't in the statement I gave you.
I wasn't in the statement.
He got pulled against his will.
He stumbled a little bit, and then I hear wait a minute. So to this day, he continues to break my balls that I try to drag him and everything. But fortunately, one of his best
funny.
friends in the back seat, Mark Orsini, was like, "You said you were all set." So
That's funny.
So I got one. This actually isn't Blue Lodge. This is actually Knights Templar, and there's a brother. Love him, Dick Epler. Fantastic ritualist, right? Older guy. Unfortunately, suffers from IBS, but we have we have the altar there, right? And they're in the Knights Templar. They're in the Knights Templar. They're at the altar. They're kneeling on the cross swords. They're taking their obligation. And as he's saying the obligation, all you hear is. And now it's taking all of the knights, everything in their power. Like, I'm turning purple. I'm standing here as the
because
junior warden. And I'm,
Yeah, you got to pretend like you don't hear it, which is like impossible in that scenario.
oh, but he didn't miss a beat in the ritual, right? So, and I'm looking at the candidates, and their faces are just complete stoic, right? And I'm like, there's no way they don't hear this. Right? So, now I start laughing as to how the hell they're keeping their composure when this dude is just rattling off an obligation, but at the same time,
Brought his own percussion group.
yeah.
His own percussion
Oh,
section.
one of the funniest things I ever freaking heard, and stunk, which made it even funnier.
Well, yeah.
because now you're standing there, right? And you're right. You're
Now
carrying
you're
the
caught in the
sword, right?
web of it.
And you're like, oh my god!
It's like walking through a spider web, and you're like, I can't get rid of it.
I don't know if I've ever told that story, but
Oh yeah, yeah,
I have.
yeah. No, maybe not in the air.
No, I don't think
but
I've done it on air before. But got any others? Any others? you
None
can
that
think
really
of?
jumps out at me. I have more good memories than funny memories, although I'm
Yeah.
sure there's some funny stuff out there. But it's just, the whole camaraderie of the fraternity is what I enjoy.
How about Marty chumming the waters on one of those fishing
Oh,
trips
yeah.
there, though?
Yeah, one of the fishing trips that we did. I don't know if it was
Fall out the
first
boat?
one. No,
No, it was seasick.
he got seasick. But to his credit, he didn't disrupt the boat. He kindly just leaned over to the side a little bit, and I'm like, "Is he falling in? Is he?" I had no idea. And then
Scraping barnacles off the
Yeah.
side.
then he comes and he sits back down and he kind of wipes his mouth a little bit, and I'm like, "You all right?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm good." But he was very discreet about it. He didn't make a big spectacle about it. But yeah, that's one. Yeah.
Blue
That's
Ridge
not
Council,
funny.
we always had the running joke about when most worshipful now, Marshall Robinson was the actual Grand Lodge Marshal. So it was marshals, and every time that they would say, because they call it roll call, we have senior stewards, junior stewards, and the Masons would stand up, whatever your respective title was, and then they'd say Marshal, and Marshal would always stand up. He's a Marshal.
Roger.
Well, anyway, that's all I got. Got anything else you want to add, or anything else that we can think of? If not, we'll proceed to clues. All right. So, with that being said, I want to give 2 toasts.
Oh boy.
Charge them.
Oh no, I'm out of.
2.
Oh, that's
Out of
right.
liquid.
I know what one of them is. Is that good or you're going to cry again?
No, it's fine. And I actually made the joke before that we were going to have a Grand Lodge officer jump out of Ken's cake.
Yeah, that's not one.
Yeah, just not this one over
No,
here.
not
Okay?
this one. No,
Uh,
Well, you're a permanent member. You can jump out.
I forgot my 2.
seriously?
Yeah.
We might have to give you a trampoline for you to jump out of it.
Seriously? You know, it used to be called a trampoline. Well, it used to be called a jumpoline until your mom got on it, right?
Got on it. Yeah.
Good one.
Mhm. Okay, Facebook.
2. Hold on, I need to. Made myself laugh on that one. 2. Right Worshipful Shane Dufresne. Thank you for coming up here. Looking forward to you becoming Grandmaster. To which we will ramp up our shenanigans on this. But no, I'm kidding.
I was going to say, not if he
Make it
keeps hanging
easy.
around here, you won't.
No, we'll change the whole intro. It'll be like, "Welcome to the Freemasons Club." We'll be all nice and
Yeah.
so he doesn't come up here and rip our ass apart.
He'll be holding the cue cards in the corner as we read off of him.
Say this. But anyway, 2. Right Worshipful Shane Dufresne. Thanks for coming up and playing with us.
My
It's been a
pleasure.
long
Yeah,
time
absolutely.
coming.
My
So, brother, right hand to arms.
To arms.
Ready.
Ready.
Aim.
Aim.
Fire. Good fire. Fire all. Together, brothers.
Vivat, vivat, vivat.
And one more.
Uno más.
a birthday boy.
That went down. That went down a little sideways. Please don't sing.
I usually pay extra for that.
do.
And I think we'll let
God.
Right Worshipful, Worshipful Brother Joe lead this one because he's due.
You know what?
But
Oh, I thought you called me a douche.
no, I didn't call you a douche. I said you're due to
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
you haven't done the toast yet. So
All right. Brothers, right hand to arms.
To
this
arms.
is to happy birthday.
Happy birthday,
Oh,
Ken.
Thank you guys.
30, right? 30?
50.
40.
Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't know your processor could go that many cycles.
Yeah. It's due
Brother,
for,
right hand to arms.
due for an upgrade. To arms.
Ready.
Ready.
Aim.
Aim.
Fire good fire. Fire all. Together, brothers.
Vivat, vivat, vivat. All right, let's lock it up. For the Freemasons podcast, I am Right Worshipful Brother George Mudry signing off.
Worshipful Brother Joe signing off.
Worshipful Brother Ken signing off.
Right Worshipful Shane Dufresne signing off.
Have a good one, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Konnichiwa, bitches. Still live on YouTube. Thanks all for tuning in.
I got to pee. Hurry up.
Me too.
Cut the feed. Cut the feed. I got to pee.
Thank you, brothers. Thank you.